workers with host Lori Eldred, a licensed clinical social worker in Michigan. In Michigan.
Hi, fellow social workers. This is Lori Eldred with Just a Social Worker podcast, and wanted to talk about a really tragic incident that happened to one of us in our social work field, and that was 51-year-old Alberto Rangel was murdered by a patient at a hospital in San Francisco. I'm sure many of you have seen that tragic news about his death and passing. And I'm not sure if we're also doing some follow-up on some of the events coming out of his murder and the conversations that are happening, specifically really around some of the safety issues that sound were lacking at the hospital where he worked. And luckily, he was part of a union, and this union is coming out obviously in support of its union member being murdered, but also calling for some really specific demands that I want to address here, as well as just generally and globally the issue of having a union at your workplace. So the demands of the union include a written immediate safety plan before staff are expected to come back to work. So this incident happened almost a week ago. And so hopefully by this time, staff have come back and there is a written safety plan in terms of how staff are to keep themselves safe at their job. Yes, as social workers, we work in pretty desperate and traumatic and difficult and complex situations, just like healthcare workers, just like those in law enforcement. And that also means that we don't deserve to deal with face safety issues or be impacted by the lack of safety protocols at work. They're also looking for a commitment to provide safe staffing levels for campus behavioral mental health teams, protected time off for things like this, or even perhaps when folks are struggling due to dealing with very systemic issues in their job. They're also calling for immediate support for affected staff and teams, which really should have been there before, right? Management, it doesn't sound like, has done a great job anticipating and thinking ahead of things that could be impacting its workers, including tragedies just like this. I think many employers are probably anticipating, thinking, or even not thinking that a tragedy like this will happen. And so perhaps there aren't good plans in place. And I think this might be a bit indicative of probably what is happening across many social work places of employment in the United States. But they're also looking for ongoing structural improvements to workplace violence prevention, right? Looking probably at a very holistic, hopefully, fingers crossed, and really total picture of what it is like for an individual to come into the work facility. How are staff kept safe? What are protocols to ensure safety? How are organizations, agencies responding if there is a dangerous, escalating event? And while as social workers, we have many of these skills to de-escalate individuals, we should also not just be left alone to have to do this by ourselves without support. So I just wanted to, really draw attention to this tragic incident, as well as hopefully, as tragic as it is, and really we shouldn't be having these incidents to draw attention to a number of the safety issues going on in the United States and in the social work profession. But I really think it does point to the real struggle we have in our profession, at our agencies and organizations, with organizations and agencies anticipating in a growing and increasingly violent United States that we're living in, that there are mechanisms in place to keep workers safe, to keep staff, to keep other support staff safe, to keep clients safe, and to overall have a very trauma-informed organization that is looking at very big picture things and planning ahead in anticipation of something tragic happening. I don't think it is really any more an if, it is more of a when something bad is going to happen. And while the social worker is at a place of employment with a union, that is not the experience of every social worker at their place of employment. And in fact, in the United States, it is very difficult, if not impossible, to create a nationwide union. Such as they have in other countries. The UK, especially, has a union for the social work profession. And I really think this is something we need to explore and consider as social workers for the collective action, the collective benefit, and really getting our voices together to create some systemic change within our profession. So I'm hoping that this tragedy, as horrific as it is, that something positive can come from it, that we can create better resiliency and flexibility within agencies and organizations to respond quickly when tragedies happen in our workplace. If you have any thoughts about this, I would love to hear it. You can drop your comments or thoughts in the comment section. Of course, you can always get a hold of me at justasocialworker.com. Follow me on socials. I'm at Lori Eldred, LMSWC on Instagram. Definitely like and subscribe. Maybe let's flip that. Subscribe and like and share this podcast so other social workers can hear it. And if you're interested in being a guest, I would love to hear from you. Until I talk to you later. Bye.
Welcome to Just a Social Worker podcast, where we seek to celebrate social workers with host Lori Eldred, a licensed clinical social worker in Michigan.